Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Praise be to Allah, the Lord of worlds, and I bear witness that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his last messenger. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, our talk today will focus on Udhiya, the sacrificial rams that are offered from the day of Eid and until the sunset of the 13th of Dhul Hijjah. Udhiya is an Arabic word referring to a class of animals, including the camel, the cow, the sheep, and the goat. So they call these animals al-an'am. To draw closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so which means it is an act of worship to slaughter a ram. One might wonder, why do we slaughter a ram? Well, there are a couple of reasons, and for any act of worship, whether we know it or not, there is and there must be wisdom behind it. According to the scholars, one of the reasons we slaughter is to thank Allah. To thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the blessing of life. We have to reflect on how this sacrifice came about. Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, or Abraham, saw in a dream that he slaughtered his son Ismail, and the dream that prophets see is a reality. So for that reason, Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam narrated his dream to his son Ismail, and he surrendered. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instead replaced Ismail with a sheep. So we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this blessing. And also, it is meant to revive the sunnah of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Since he slaughtered a sacrifice, we also emulate Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. And this is a day that allows people to be expansive with oneself and one's family, generous with neighbors and visitors, because it is a very special day. And also, spilling blood emphasizes belief in what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has informed us, that He created these animals for the benefit of mankind. Well, What is the evidence that sacrificing is legislated in Islam? We find evidence in the Holy Quran, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Kawthar, فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ وَانْحَرْ. So pray to your Lord and offer sacrifice. And there are many other verses, but due to time constraint, we cannot bring all those verses. And also in the Prophet's Sunnah, we'll find evidence regarding sacrifice. It was narrated that Anas ibn Malik, may Allah be pleased with him, said the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam sacrificed 2 white rams speckled with black. He slaughtered them with his own hand. So that is another evidence that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam sacrificed, and we have to emulate him sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So what is the ruling of slaughtering for Eid al-Adha? Well, slaughtering for Eid al-Adha is a confirmed sunnah. In other words, is an emphatic sunnah. That is the position of the majority of scholars, even though some scholars believe that it is obligatory, but they are in the minority. The majority position is that sacrifice or slaughtering a ram is a confirmed emphatic sunnah. What does that mean? When we classify something as confirmed sunnah, it means Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has consistently performed it, like the 2 nafil of Fajr, for example. So the scholars are of the opinion that it is sunnah mu'akkada. So whoever is able financially to slaughter a ram, it is highly recommended that one does it or offers it. However, if somebody vows to slaughter a ram, it becomes obligatory. Like, for example, you say, this year I vow to slaughter a ram. Then it is obligatory upon you to slaughter because you vowed. Or somebody, before they die, they make wasiyah, will, that I'm leaving this money. When I die, I want you to slaughter a ram for me. Then it becomes again obligatory. Other than that, it is just a confirmed sunnah. What are the conditions for sacrificing or for slaughtering a ram? Number 1, it has to be a flock animal that I mentioned earlier. A camel or a cow or a sheep or a goat. All right? So that is very important to mention. For example, chicken is not included. other animals or that we eat, other than this class of an'am that I mentioned, okay, are not included. Only these four that I mentioned: a camel or a cow or a sheep or a goat. That is condition number one. Number two, that the ram has to reach the Sharia required age. All right, that is very important. For the camel has to complete 5 years. The cow has to complete 2 years of age. The goat has to complete 1 year. The sheep has to complete at least 6 months. Well, for the sheep, the scholars have somehow differed. Some say that even the sheep has to complete 1 year. Some say 8 months. But a lot of scholars are of the opinion that 6 months is sufficient for the sheep to count as a ram. Another condition, the ram has to be free from defects that render it unworthy of sacrifice. And the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was very clear about that. Animals that do not qualify for sacrifice are those that are obviously blind in at least one eye, all right, obviously sick, lame to such an extent that they cannot keep up with the flock, and emaciated such that they bear little meat. All right, so those criteria should be met. These defects disqualify an animal to be considered as a sacrificial ram. The other condition number 4, slaughtering at the prescribed time. It starts from after the Eid al-Adha prayer, and specifically khutbah, and it ends on the 13th day of Dhul Hijjah. So after the Eid is on the 10th of Dhul Hijjah. After the Eid, so you have 3 days. They call them Ayyam Tashriq. So the sunset of the 13th day of the Hijjah, that is the time, slaughtering a ram ends. Number 5, intention. In Islam, when you do anything, it has to go with niyyah, intention. All right. So this is very, very important point to make, that the sooner the better. Even though you have this room to sacrifice or to slaughter your ram, the sooner the better. If you can, do it on the very first day of Eid al-Adha. So for that reason, if somebody slaughters a ram before the Eid, it doesn't count as a sacrificial ram. This is a very important point to highlight here. So it is if for example, if somebody slaughters the ram before the Eid, so it's just like you are consuming meat, you are eating normal meat, but not the sacrificial ram. Sometimes people ask, about the timing. Can I slaughter my ram at night? Yes, it is permissible. There is no problem with that, as long as it is within the time framework that I mentioned. So it is okay to slaughter your ram at night. Again, whoever has intention to slaughter a ram should not clip their nails or cut their hair from day one of Dhul Hijjah, or to be more specific, from the night of the first day of Dhul Hijjah. For example, if the moon is sighted, so from that day the sunset, okay, you should not cut your nails or take anything from your hair. It is makruh, undesirable. If you cut your nails or if you take something from your hair, that would not affect the validity of your sacrificial ram. All right, but you are not going to get the reward of the sunnah of observing this prophetic command or recommendation. So it is another thing that a lot of people ask about. And let's say you ask somebody as a proxy to slaughter the ram on your behalf. Even though the person will execute it on your behalf, you are the one to observe this recommendation, not to cut your nails or take something from your hair. And also, it is permissible for you to ask somebody to slaughter your ram on your behalf. If you cannot do it yourself, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ did it himself, and that is highly recommended. But if you are not able to slaughter your ram, you can ask somebody to do that on your behalf, or to do that for you. And particularly in the West, where it is very hard, sometimes if you live in an apartment or you don't have enough space, or the environment is not conducive, so you can definitely ask somebody to slaughter your ram for you. So how do you distribute, your ram? So you eat from it, and you feed others, and you can store it. You can also give it as sadaqah. So that is okay. I know that people normally have a lot of questions around the sacrificial ram, so we'll try to address those questions in the next episode, inshallah. And thank you very much for your kind attention. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi